we have one version of the Quran contradicting another version of the Quran. Did you know there are different versions of the Quran?
Well, I mean, as you know, you've heard this probably, that there are seven canonical readings,
Oh, I've heard 7, I've heard 10, I've heard
and
14.
there's 10, there's 14, but it's kind of interesting that only mere men chose this. The Quran itself never testified about itself being revealed in 2 or 3 or 4 or any number for that matter. And you say these are variants or dialects, and you get so many opinions about this.
Yeah, but for years we were told there's not one letter's difference between any two Qurans. That was total nonsense. And this really got exposed when Hatun Tah showed up to Speaker's Corner with 26 different Arabic Qurans. Not 26 different translations, ladies and gentlemen, 26 different Arabic Qurans. And she's pointing to the differences. And Muslims actually accused her later on, because they couldn't get their minds around this. They accused her of printing those Qurans herself. So Hatun just has a big printing shop, and she's printing up Qurans with all these differences and so
I'm
on.
gonna ask her to print my future book.
Yeah, she's got her own publishing house, apparently, just cranking out Qurans all the time. But anyway, this eventually worked its way up until Yasser Qadi responded and other people responded. And they had to acknowledge, yeah, we've got all kinds of differences in different Qurans. But then the Dawah guys came back and said, yeah, this is just talking about different dialects. So we pronounce words a little bit differently with different dialects of English. So the Quran, that's all there is. And of course, then we had to start refuting that and showing, no, these are saying different things, sometimes even contradictory things. But let me read Surah 11, verse 81 in 2 different translations which sound like they're saying something different here. So this is the Hilleli Khan translation of Surah 11, verse 81.
Mm-hmm.
This is the story of the destruction of Sodom. And so Lot was there. It says, they, the messengers, said, O Lot, verily we are the messengers from your Lord. They shall not reach you. So travel with your family in a part of the night, and let not any of you look back. But your wife, in parentheses, will remain behind. So your wife is going to remain behind. Verily, the punishment which will afflict them will afflict her. Indeed, morning is their appointed time. Is not the morning near? And in the study Quran, same verse reads, they said, O Lot, we are the envoys of thy Lord. They shall not reach thee. So set out with thy family during the night, and let none of you turn around save thy wife. Surely that which befalls them shall befall her. Indeed, the morning shall be their tryst. Is not the morning nigh? All right, so in one of these translations, it sounds like Lot's wife doesn't leave. She stays behind, and her whole family goes out. In the other, it sounds like they all go out, and none of them turns around to look back except his wife. So any idea what's going on here?
Well, I mean, if we were to look at the Arabic, for instance, and as you mentioned, there are different opinions about how many readings. You have the 7, the 10, the 14. So if we were to look, for instance, at those 10 readings, the majority of the readers, about 8 of them, that includes the most common reading known as Hafs from Asim. That's the common Quran that everybody has. Reads the verse this way, and I'm going to focus on the emphasis on the wife. Illa imra'ataka. Imra'ataka. Okay? So it's in the accusative here. What does that mean? What it means here, that your wife will not be with you. She's going to stay behind. So you're going to take the family, the rest of the family, and she will stay behind, and she's going to suffer the same kind of fate that will suffer Sodom and Gomorrah in this case, or the people of Lot, if you wish. Now, there is, interestingly enough, there is at least minority reading. One of them is Al-Bazzi, who read or transmitted from Ibn Kathir, one of the readers. So the transmitter is Al-Bazzi, the reader is Ibn Kathir. So Al-Bazzi is equal to Hafs, basically. Here's what it says. Al-Bazzi will say, Illa imra'atuka. Hafs imra'ataka. Notice, tattoo. What does that mean? Al-Bazzi saying the word for his wife is in the nominative. That means she will leave with them, but she will be the one who's going to turn and look back, and she is going to suffer the same fate. So was it with them, and then she turned around or looks back and she suffers the fate of that punishment? Or was she left behind and she suffered the fate because she was still there? Don't tell me it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Grammatically is a big deal. And also theologically here, did she basically obey, the commands about what was going on here? Or did Lot abandon his wife just because she is a non-believer? Does that mean a Muslim man can abandon his wife now, even if she's in danger of dying as a result of this? I mean, there's so many things that you can reach and conclusions that you can draw out of this, especially at a Sharia law level, for instance, or grammatical level.
So if I'm getting this right, the idea is that there's a textual variant which changes the case.
That's right.
And it's either nominative or accusative.
Exactly.
But that changes the meaning of except thy wife. So if it's one, it's all of you go out except your wife.
That's right.
And if it's the other, it's all of you go out and no one looks back except your wife. And so according to one, she goes out with them, but she looks back. And according to the other, they all go out except her. So she doesn't go out. And therefore, that's a contradiction. She either went out or she didn't go out.
That's right. And also, really, let's ask a question. Which version of this was preserved in heaven on the preserved tablets? Which one of these did Allah know in advance? Did he know that she's going to leave or not leave? Or is it just a guess game? Or if Allah knew what was going on, then why do we have a reading that contradicts the other? Shouldn't we just have one common reading and stick to it?
And that's a serious problem, because the new explanation is that all these different readings, they all go back to the eternal tablet and they all complement each other. Well, guess what? These are you've got contradictions, and these aren't complementing each other. If you're saying these all go back to the heavenly tablet, then the heavenly tablet contains contradictions.
Right.
And this brings us to the final type of Quran contradiction. We have Quran verses contradicting abrogated Quran verses in the eternal Quran. What do I mean here? Well, in Islam, in the Quran, you've got the doctrine of abrogation. Allah can give one verse and then abrogate that, cancel it, and give a different verse. But let's look at some examples. Surah 2, verse 256 says that there is no compulsion in religion. Surah 9, verse 29 says, fight those who do not believe in Allah. According to Surah 4, verse 43, Muslims are allowed to drink alcohol as long as they don't show up for prayer drunk. It says, O ye who believe, draw not near unto prayer when ye are drunken, till ye know that which ye utter. In other words, don't show up for prayer until you sober up. That's fine. Then we go to Surah 5, verse 90, which says Muslims aren't allowed to drink alcohol at all. It says, O you who believe, intoxicants, all kinds of alcoholic drinks, gambling, al-ansab and al-azlam, arrows for seeking luck or decision, are an abomination of shaitans, Satan, handiwork. Surah 4, verse 15 tells us that the penalty for sexual sin is house arrest. It says, and those of your women who commit illegal sexual intercourse, take the evidence of 4 witnesses from amongst you against them. And if they testify, confine them, i.e. women, to houses until death comes to them or Allah ordains for them some other way. Surah 24, verse 2 tells us that the penalty for sexual sin is 100 lashes. The woman and the man guilty of illegal sexual intercourse, flog each of them with 100 stripes. So, here's the issue. Muslims say this verse abrogates that verse. Okay, that's fine. But they believe that there is an eternal heavenly tablet. And on that eternal heavenly tablet, you've got a verse that says the penalty for sexual sin is house arrest, and another verse saying the penalty for sexual sin
Public
is
lashing.
100 lashes,
Right.
and a verse that says, do they not contemplate the Quran? Had it been from other than God, they would surely have found much discrepancy therein. So in the eternal heavenly tablet, we have all the issues we've already brought up, but we also have the issue that all the and the verses that abrogate them are all together in the same book, claiming that there's not much discrepancy or much contradiction or much inconsistency.
It is indeed not only obvious contradictions, but it's troubling when you think about it, because you have the author of the Quran himself anticipating that there is going to be contradictions, but leaving the door wide open as to how much of the Quran will have that. I mean, so far, everything that you've shared and you mentioned already, these are just samples, not everything. It's not an exhaustive list of them. They've been troubling already.
That's right. And so when your Muslim friends bring up these kinds of verses of the Quran, making this challenge, show us where the inconsistency is, show us the contradiction. We gave you 5 different types of Quran contradictions. Can you think of more?